After a slow start of the year, the April data get better. Hi everyone, Ian here. So after a very slow 25 spring market, January, February has been historically low, and we didn't even do analysis last month because it was so bad and we actually had so many things going on with the tariff and all that. We decided to skip a month and look at April and March together. So the past 2 months, if you look at it on the screen, is actually one of the worst in March and April in the history in the past like probably 20 years. Some people say past 30 years, the worst spring, March and April, right? In typical years, these should be the best months in the year, but we've had the worst in like past 10, 20 years. And if you look at the sales, the past 2 months, March and April, actually had only 5,000 and 5,600 transactions, sales. And that comparing to even 2024, which is 1 year ago, is negative 23%, right? A quarter less sales, a quarter less buyers who wants to make a transaction in both months. And in terms of sellers, new listing, we can see that in March, we've had 17,000 new listings, which is more than 3 times more than the buyers, right? And in April, new listings kept going up. So 18,800, almost 19,000 new listings. And that is comparing to last year, like April 2024, it's 8.1% higher, right? And last month in March, it's actually 28% higher. So you can see March and April, they all had a lot more sellers came to the market compared to a year ago, and a lot less buyers compared to 1 year ago, right? So the result is that less buyers, more sellers, there must be lots of extra inventories. And that is true. You can see that as of end of April, we have 27,386 active listing, which is all the active listings that are not sold, remain on the market as of end of April. And that is 54% higher than the previous year. March was even worse. I mean, number-wise, it's actually better. March was 23,000. April was 27,000, right? You can see that between March and April, we added 4,000 new listings. But March, comparing to 1 year ago, was like a whopping 89% more, right? So you can see March and April were a lot worse than last year. People ask me, hey, why do you think the market is worse than last year? We have lower interest rates. You know, we're supposed to be doing better. But I just tell them, hey, look at the number of houses that are not sold on the market, right? If you have 50% to like 100% more listings remain on the market, cannot find a buyer, then inevitably price will be lower than last year because there's more competition between sellers. So unsurprisingly, if you look at the price, right? So right now, as of April 25, average price in GTA is 1.1 million. And comparing to last year, right? It's a negative 4.1%. So last year was 1.15, now it's 1.1. So total like $50,000 drop on average, right? Even comparing to the March was 109, so April was 1.1. Okay, so April was price-wise was flat with March, but comparing to previous year, March was also negative 2.5, right? So you can see March and April, they're both down, right? Prices both down comparing to the same time last year, which makes sense because we have 50 to like 100% more inventory on the market. More competition between sellers, price is gonna go down, which makes a lot of sense. And average time to sell, like how much time it takes to sell a property compared to last year, now is 25 days. March was 24 days, and previous year was 19 and 20 days, right? As you can see, like a whole 5 days longer on average, right, to sell a property. So that's just a very high level overview for the GTA real estate market. Let's break it down between different property types and different regions. Okay, so now if you take a look at the different regions, you can see that detached, this is all April data, okay? April, detached year over year, price dropped 5.4%. And sales, number of sales actually dropped 21.7%. Okay, that's a big difference. Remember we said the total sales dropped 23%, right? So detached dropped 21%, almost 22%. So which means it's not all condos problem. Detached is having a problem too. And then if you compare, interestingly, if you compare 416 area versus 905 area. Okay, 416 is Toronto, 905 is surrounding cities around Toronto in GTA. Detached market, it's actually mainly 905 having a problem. Negative 27% in terms of number of sales. Toronto only had negative 2.2%. Okay, so that means there's still a lot of buyers in Toronto, and there's a lot less buyers buying detached homes around Toronto, right? So 905 areas year over year is having a much bigger difference in terms of buyers' willingness to buy a home. And in terms of price, you can see that both 416 and 905 dropped about 7% for detached homes. And for condos, so condos overall, number of sales dropped 30%, okay, which is worse than detached homes. So that's why in grand average, it was about negative 23%, but condos make up a bigger drop on the number of sales. And 905 area has a slightly bigger drop year over year than 416, which is both about 30% less transactions than last year. And in terms of price, 416 had a bigger drop year over year, 7.3% down from last year. And 905 area condos had a negative 6.1, right? So which similar, they're both condos in Toronto and surrounding Toronto, price all went down compared to last year, and the transactions became 30% less. So the main interesting story is around the detached and semi-detached between 416 and 905, right? You can see that there's even more transactions for semi-detached in Toronto. People are actually buying more because these are affordable and close to the city, right? In Toronto, it's close to jobs, close to schools. People are actually buying these Toronto semi-detached more than last year. But 905 area is down 20% in terms of sales, right? So you can see that people do prefer to buy entry-level freehold low-rise properties, and they love buying still in Toronto, right? In the past 72 hours, today is May 7th. In the past 72 hours, I've sold 3 listings. One of them is in Toronto. The other one is a freehold. It's like a semi-detached in Toronto. The other one is a downtown condo in Toronto, right? And another one is a townhouse in Richmond Hill. But they are all entry-level homes, whether it's the townhouse, the semi, or the condo, right? They're all very comfortable entry-level homes, and they're selling well. But the other ones, like the more expensive listings I have, the ones over $2 million, or the more expensive condos, they're sitting on the market with less traffic and less inquiries. So we can see the difference between entry-level homes and more luxury homes in today's market. There's an obvious contrast. Okay, now if we look at the same data, let's look at the combined, between every property type. This is just a graphical format for everything we've seen so far. You can see that in terms of sales, the 5,600 sales in April, it is growing from March, right? But it is down from last year. And in terms of new listings, yes, we are higher than last year. For all the 4 months we've had this year, the green one, you can see that we're higher than the dark green. And it's been going up. But it matches with seasonality because, like I mentioned before, summer is when everybody loves to put their property on the market because landscaping looks nice, house shows well during the spring and summer. So sellers love putting their homes on the market. So I do expect there should be more homes coming up, more listings. And in terms of number of sales, it is increasing, right? Just not increasing as fast as even last year. Therefore, it creates a active listing, which is a lot higher than last year at 27.4 thousand. And average price, you can see the gap between now and last year is actually getting bigger, right? So right now, usually April should have like a bigger jump in price, but it didn't, right? This year, the price has been pretty flat. So the difference between last year is actually getting bigger. Now, if we look at all the years, right, we can see that the same graph just past 10 years, you can see the number of sales, it is the worst of the past 10 years, like the absolute worst April, except COVID April. Remember 2020, year 2020, when COVID just happened, April was very, very low because the whole city was locked down, right? So that's the only time that had less sales than today. So right now we're here, right? Second lowest of all the past 10 years, except COVID months. Even the third month of COVID had more sales than today, right? So which is a problem, you can see. A number of new listings, you can see it is nearly the highest of the 10 years. The only time that's higher than right now is 2021 and 2017, right? Which is these two data points, 2021 and 2017. And these are both crazy hot years because remember, even though they had a little bit more new listings, they had a lot more buyers. Like we have this many buyers. 2017 and 2021 had this many buyers, right? Like 12, 15,000 buyers versus like 5,000 buyers, right? So that's why the market is so different. And other than that, we are at the highest new listing level right now. And price-wise, you know, we are here and we are lower than 2020, 2022, 2023, and 2024, right? So all past 3 years, we are lower. So we're at the lowest point of the past 4 years in terms of price. And we are on average pretty close to 2021 pricing right now. If you look at the condos were actually below 2021 pricing. Okay, I'll just expand this chart for you. You can see right now, condos were actually average price were lower than 2021. So we're the lowest of the past 5 years. But for detached homes, you can see that it is slightly different. We are still higher on average than 2021. We're here, right? We're higher than 2021, but for detached on you can see from the data, we're lower than 22, 24, and 23. So detached were the lowest of the past 4 years. Condos were lowest of the past 5 years. And in terms of active listing, we are by far the highest point of the past 10 years. Okay, like this is way blew everybody out of the water. So we have so much active listing, it's not even funny because it is higher than even the peak of last year. Even at last month, it was still lower than the peak of last year. But right now, it is already surpassed the peak. So we've never had a month that had this many active listing. Okay, and that is a problem. And for condos, we can see that it is the same story, right? Active listing at all-time high of 9.7 thousand, and in the past highest point it was 9,000. Now condo is 9.7 thousand, and for detached homes we are still near the top, and we have 2018, 2019 slightly higher than right now in May in the next 2 months, right? But keep in mind, 2018, 2019 had a lot more sales than today. So even though they had a similar inventory level in 2018, 2019 for detached, they had a lot more sales. So months of inventory is a lot worse now than even 2018 and 2019, right? If we take a look at this chart, this is months of inventory. Let's take a look at detached homes. So people say detached home is not that bad, it's okay. I tell you, detached homes right now, it is the worst in history in terms of months of inventory. 2018 was here, 2019 was here, right? A lot better than even today because there's similar inventory, but more sales back then. Now there's high inventory and low sales. And if you look at a condo, even worse. Condo, the months of inventory is all-time high at 6.8, and every other year was better. Even during COVID, remember the April we had in COVID? That was even, in terms of months of inventory, even better than now. So in terms of market actions and market heat, we're actually even colder than the COVID months where everybody's locked down. Okay, so that is what the problem that we're facing right now. So in terms of others, sales to new listing ratio, we have the highest months of inventory, and we have the lowest sales to new listing ratio, and we have the longest time to sell a property, 25 days. You can see it is the longest of all the Aprils. Okay, so just wanted to share with you a very quick high-level update for April data transactions. And from a price band perspective, you can see that for condos, we are selling a lot higher percentage, like double the percentage of under 500,000 condos, and a lot more percentage than last year for 500 to 600,000 condos, right? So which means condo price did drop. There's a lot more of these 7, 8, 900,000 condos that dropped into a lower price bucket, right? So for detached homes, if you're comparing to last year, you can see there's a lot more at the lower price range than comparing to the higher price range percentage. Everything is shifting towards lower. Let me tell you, even comparing to last month, okay, let's compare April to March. Even April to March for detached, you can see there's bigger percentage at the lower price ranges, right? And lower percentage at the higher price range. That means April, even April to March, it's price-wise is actually, not doing better. And condo is the same. Between April to March, you can see that there's higher percentage of condos selling in the under 500,000 in April compared to March, right? So that means April more properties are selling in the lower price buckets. So that means what? If you actually look at the transactions, there's actually a lot more selling at a lower price than even last month, not to mention last year. Okay, so just a quick overview for the current market data. And if you like this content, give it a like, subscribe. And next video, we're going to talk about the better breakdowns of different property types and different cities and how different cities in GTA stack up against each other in terms of their market actions. Okay, until next time, ciao.